Today we're talking about Children of Men. This is from 2006. This was co-written and directed by Alfonso Cuaron, based on a book by P.D. James. Set in 2027, the world is plagued with infertility. We follow Theo, played by Clive Owen, who unwillingly takes on a mission which may be the last hope for the future of mankind. So Arnold, what did you think of Children of Men?
Absolutely loved it. I can't believe I slept on this film. I mean,
Mm.
it's almost practically like perfect.
Yeah, this is your first time watching it.
Yeah. I was always kind of aware of the film, but I think until you mentioned it a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, I gotta check that out. But yeah, what can I say? Just every scene is just so memorable. I feel like the background has a lot to play in terms of being the main sort of starring role, let's just say. We'll get more into that eventually, but yeah, great performances, great directing, great shots, just enough to keep you wanting more, basically. But yeah, what did you think?
I think this film is fantastic. This is my third time watching for this. This is close to being a flawless film, in my opinion. Brilliant story, cast, especially the attention to detail.
Trust.
And there's just so much to get out of it, and I think it does get better every time you watch it. I mean, this is the third time I'm watching it, and I'm still noticing new things in the background and noticing new things in the dialogue and stuff. It's just all the cast are great, even the smaller roles. It's just script is airtight. Just brilliant, man, brilliant.
Let's talk about the actual opening sequence, and like the way the film starts. Like, it tells you everything you need to know.
This has one of the most perfect openings to a
Yeah.
film ever. It's like within about 2 minutes, we know everything, and we get we know everything about the world, and we get a good indication of our main character, like straight
Yeah.
away. Within 2 minutes, brilliant. Man.
Exactly. And I love the introduction of Theo coming in completely unaffected by the news of baby Diego's death. And like the way it sort of establishes him, that you can clearly tell he's a man who's given up on life. He's very disconnected from everything, and you know it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he walks in, he grabs his coffee, and then walks out, puts a little whiskey in it, or whatever.
Yeah, and like that again. We know obviously he's an alcoholic because obviously he's still he's suffering.
The only dialogue we get as well is from the TV. It's just it's just perfect, man.
And it's like when you have that first long shot where he walks out and you see like at the adverts of report suspicious activity.
All the propaganda.
Yeah, and you see like moving screens on buses, on buildings. You have that weird sort of grey tint. I know that was sort of like a weird like a trend in like the 2000s where they had like certain tints in film.
They still do that now.
Yeah. But I feel like with this sort of era it's more noticeable. But
it's used appropriately.
Yeah, it's more effective. Yeah, you've got this great sort of display of dystopian atmosphere, and like suddenly you get this explosion, and like it's just the imagery of the aftermath of it, of the woman walking out with the arm in her hand, and it's like, and then you see the titles, absolutely perfect. The idea of mankind without a purpose, and how it sort of has chaos in terms of like, you know, the consequences of it.
Well, if you look at this, like just this opening, it's like, what do we get out of this world? It's like, well, we know it's a bit dystopian because obviously the youngest person is 18 years old, or was. There's also this sort of weird celebrity worship going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Which you know, can be said about other things in life, in the real world, and all that stuff. And it's just like, I think the reason why probably they're all upset as well, it's not just the celebrity thing, it's because it's like that was like the last hope, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's and that's sort of 2 minutes, like I say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just brilliant, man. Just brilliant stuff.
I think the character Theo, like the idea of him. I mean, he's very much an anti-hero. He's
Well, I wouldn't say anti-hero. I'd say he's more like
I think so.
an unwilling hero, I'd say.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I think, I mean, in the sense of anti-hero, is the fact that he's the sort of person that walks by cages of immigrants screaming for help, and he just carries on. And obviously, you get an idea of this has become normalized in this society.
But see, I think with Theo, because we find out that he was an activist back in the day, and I think he says to just one bit where he goes to his cousin, and his cousin mentions something about art and how like it was a shame what happened in Spain and we lost all this art. And Theo just kind of off the cuff says, "Oh yeah, it's a shame about the people as well."
Madrid was a real blow to art.
Not to mention people.
I think with Theo, his character, I feel like it doesn't faze him what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
But deep down it does. Which and the more the film progresses, I think the more that comes out. You know what I mean?
I think where I come from in terms of like the anti-heroes, like I feel like that's sort of like a good portrayal of like representing the average person in the street. Just the way he sort of just carries on with all this chaos happening, with all with the way that, you know, immigrants are being treated, like this clear dystopian world we're living in, and like he's just carrying on. Like I think that's a perfect representation of like of him not being this sort of like typical hero that's like, you know, I'll defend anyone I help whenever I see. That's what I get out of that.
Yeah,
but
there's a bit as well with the scene where he talks to Michael Caine, and like Michael Caine goes to tell a joke, and he immediately like goes, "Oh, even if they do this, you know, it's not going to help because the world's fucked or whatever." And it's just like, but if he didn't care, he wouldn't go on about it. If you know what I mean?
No.
So it's like he's very, very, very layered.
Layered character,
very
layered,
like an onion.
I gotta say, a really interesting seeing. Again, go back to the dystopian world, the way like immigrants are treated in Britain, in this fictional Britain, and it's like what I got from that is we get an idea of like other countries collapsing. It seems like Britain is one of the only few stable countries, and the fact that the way they treat these immigrants as second-class citizens, you get an idea they have like a monopoly in terms of, you know, how they treat them, like without any consequences. The fact that they can keep them in cages, the fact that they can just dismiss them and shoot them at will without any, you know, thought. It just really goes to show.
Yeah, I think this is quite a realistic sort of look into the future, because I don't want to say, oh, this could happen, or what, you know, oh, this is going to happen. I mean, maybe if the Tories win next year, but we'll have to wait and see. I think what's realistic with it, because we see perfect that little advert where it's like Paris, Brazil, whatever. Only Britain soldiers on. Fucking love that. Typical fucking British propaganda. Makes you proud to be British. The reason why I do think it's a sort of a realistic portrayal is because, you know, we kind of get an idea what's happened, but it's never sort of like, well, obviously the children not being born is the main sort of thing. But I think the thing I'm trying to get at is like, when the world or when a country is put under so many crises at once, that sounded weird, like, ideologies can start to form. And them ideologies can eventually turn into political ideologies. And then they become law. And it's like, that's what feels like has happened with this world. And it's great because that's never pointed out. And another reason why to think that these ideologies have started to spread up is because that one bit, which also has one of the best fucking uses of Court of the Crimson King. Fucking great that was. What I think's great about that is that we see this sort of like religious group.
I was just about to say.
And they're like, repent. And it's like, you know, it seems like all these ideologies, but they've all got sort of different things to them, because also our sort of, sorry, I'm rambling a bit.
No, that's all right, go ahead.
It's like all these, you know, the good guys, I suppose, which is the Human Project or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It's like even them which we'll probably talk about when we
Have
talk
like
about the
grey
story.
areas about
Yeah,
them.
yeah, they have their own sort of
I
motives.
think with the religious groups, I feel like that's a good example of showing how mankind chooses to cope in these desperate times. Like they either repent or flagellate themselves. They even say so at one point in the movie. And there's even a shot as well of like an organised religious protest happening as well. Yeah, fucking amazing, man. But yeah, I kind of want to talk about like in general, like what we're saying about the background in general being the main star, because like you were saying, I completely agree. It with the way it depicts this sort of futuristic world, it's done so realistically, like it's almost overwhelming in a sense. And the way it just throws at you, like as if you've just woken up from a coma and you're thinking, fucking hell, is this like the world right now? It's crazy. Like it provides context really well in terms of an organic fashion, and it doesn't tell you without having too many fucking dialogue dumps, basically. Yeah, I think one shot springs to mind where it tells you a perfect little story in the background is the bit where Theo's walking to work, and we see behind him like police lined up with riot shields. Next to them, you see the immigrants kept in the cages, and then next to that, you see a crowd of people next to them being seen to by police for like passports, IDs, and whatnot. Then you realise, hang on, they're not immigrants, they're actually British citizens.
Yeah, exactly.
And in the background, there's a shot of flats, and you can tell that they've obviously been evicted.
Yeah.
And like that progression is so fucking well done.
Yeah, and it's like another one. It's like a minute long.
Yeah, and like you realise it's just that it's a typical racist, xenophobic exercise, and what's hilarious, almost absurd about the next shot is the fact that when you see that transition where you see the flat and the eviction in there, you see the next shot and it's like a shrine to baby Diego, and like it's absurd because but there's no connection to baby Diego. He's completely detached. You know what I mean? He's a privileged man, and like that has no connection to the country or the people. And it's a really interesting contrast in terms of what people prioritize as more significant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. Any good science fiction, if it makes you think about what's going on in the real world, I mean, it's fucking done its job. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly. It's the whole point. Yeah, I do want to talk about the scene with where Theo visits his cousin.
Yeah.
That I thought was a really cool scene.
Yeah, there's
Go ahead.
There's I love that contrast between he's in the Rolls Royce or whatever, and he goes through, I think it's the mall, I don't really know London that well, I think it's the mall, and he goes across into that big long road.
Yeah.
And like the rich are just living it up.
It's like two different worlds.
Yeah, and I love, there's one little detail I noticed in that, there's a camel there, and it makes me think, did they transport that from a country which has like failed and moved it to thingy so people can see it? It's just like,
it's sick, man. I really like the scene between Theo's cousin. I can't remember the name of the character, but there's something about a rich man owning like art that's been recovered from like collapsed countries, because there's something about his collection, his art collection, not being shared to the world. And when you think about that, the art itself, its value is quickly diminished, because it becomes something as a status for power rather than something that's offering something profound. And that's fucking genius. I mean, there's a bit where like you even said to me, when they're having that conversation, you see the inflated pig in the background, referencing Pink Floyd. And it's like it's a bit on the nose, but it's like, yeah, I get it, it represents greed. But it's like it's almost kind of ironic in a sense as well, because of like, he's living in a Battersea power station, and it's like it's a palace, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many layers, like you say.
Yeah, as well, I thought with that, I wonder if the pig was a reference to Pink Floyd in the film, but also within the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like, I wonder if you got that because of the album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just there.
Irony.
Yeah. And that's another thing going with back to the character of Theo. It's like he says to his cousin, who also the cousin played the Scarecrow in Arkham Knight, which is mad.
Oh.
Yeah. He's also in a film called Ivan XTC, which is a fucking great film. Isn't it, man? Yeah, that's him. I think it is anyway, I might be wrong. Yeah, he says to his cousin, Theo says to his cousin, like, you know, doesn't it bother you that, like, in 100 years it's not going to be here? And he's like, I just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's the difference with Theo, because he acts like he doesn't think about it,
But he does.
But he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
always thinking about it.
I really like the chemistry between Julian and Theo, and it's funny because they have such little screen time. But when they're together, you really sense they've got an actual history together. They're happy to see each other, but there's a sense of like bitterness and detachment because of the history regarding, you know, their unfortunate son's passing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's a good moment where like they're in the car. This is the bit we'll have to talk about as well, featuring the long shot. But there's a bit as well where like she gets the ball and she passes to not Julian, Theo. And it's just like, it's a nice little moment, like, you know, you can tell, like, they generally do care for each other, and it's sweet, and it's a nice little moment, like a calm before the storm. But, yeah, I was completely surprised how, you know, I think she was in it for, like...
10 minutes, if
yeah,
that.
and it was, like, 28 minutes into the film.
I think that was a good subversion or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you first watch the film, you see Julianne Moore, whatever.
Yeah.
And because she's sort of a known star, you expect her to be in it more.
Yeah, exactly.
Pun intended. But yeah, it's a good shocking moment, and it's a good
indication.
Yeah. Because, and it does add that sort of like, oh shit, like,
yeah, no one's safe.
This world's brutal.
Let's talk about the second long shot in the car, because that is one of the best things I've ever seen on screen. It starts off, like I said, you know, they're getting to know each other, and that we're introduced to Key and Miriam. Suddenly you see like a car on fire, and then suddenly a crowd of people come out of nowhere, and it just, honestly, the shit starts to hit the fan. And the way the camera moves around in the car so fluidly, it's absolutely insane. I mean, there isn't like quick edits or anything, like,
no, there probably is.
There probably is, but it just seems so seamless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like the action going on in the background is so well timed meticulously that it's almost like it feels incredibly natural, especially the way the people in the background play their parts so well. And it's like, it lasts for a good 4 minutes as well, which I thought was insane. Really, really well done in terms of the direction from Alfonso, because it makes you think how many takes it must have took to pull that off, for starters. Like, the patience and endurance to pull that off, and with that many people as well. And like, I even put there, like, the patience and endurance to piece it together with that many people executing their roles perfectly within a carefully constructed sequence is like nuts, man.
It is, man. It's a tribute to everyone who works with films, not just actors, everyone, the lighting people and all that. Have you watched any of the behind the scenes stuff?
No,
because the way they sort of did that is that there's no actual roof to the car. I think they did like a CGI thing, so they basically, like, kind of, it looks like a camera upside down, or they put it on a thing, and it's kind of spinning around, and someone's on top actually sort of driving and stuff like that. But what amazes me the most about that scene, and it probably is just CGI, but when the camera comes off the car, and the car drives off, and it's like a normal car, it's like, that fucking blows my mind. It's just because it's just like, maybe they've just like digitally erased the top, you know, where the cameraman sits and all that, but even still, like, it still fucking blows my mind. It's just great, man. Absolutely fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, you were saying earlier, you know, deep down Theo does care, and I do agree with you, actually, because there's a really good scene, has good symbolism that indicates Theo as a good caring character. There's a bit where, like, they arrive at the farm, and he gets greeted by these two border collie dogs, and like there's a line that I think it's Thomas. He goes, they like you and they don't like anyone. And there's another bit where the Fishers are having this meeting about electing a new leader, and there's a where Theo's listening in, and like there's a kitten climbing on his leg, and like it's really good symbolism because what I got out of that is like it seems like Theo, the way that is sort of entailed is that he's a trustworthy person, and there's a capable there's a capability in terms of him being an actual like doing the right thing, and like we realize he does care as soon as the turning point happens where he overhears the realization that it was like that they killed Julian, and like the fact that he went over to wake up Key and Miriam and get them out. It's a really good character moment for Theo, and it's like he didn't have to do that. He literally could have just walked away. You know what I mean? I mean, who knows if he would have survived that long? I don't know. But like, it's a really good moment. I really like that, and it's like I said with the kitten on his leg, it's very good symbolism, like a good foreshadowing moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very good.
I really love Michael Caine as Jasper. I think he's so endearing. He's just great. He kind of represents the only sort of positive environment in the film. He basically provides like this sort of light-hearted comedic relief in the film that sort of takes away the tension and the misery of the fucking world you live in. And like, to have that sort of taken away later on in the film when he gets shot, it's like, holy fucking shit, man. When he gets brutally killed, it creates a sense of true despair when there's no stability represented in the film. Like, he even says to him, there's a really good line, it's like, Michael Caine's character goes, why don't you come live with us? And he goes, oh, then I wouldn't have anything to look forward to. Do you know what I mean? It's like the only good thing in Theo's life, and that gets taken away from him, and it's so fucking sad.
Yeah, I mean, his ex-wife got taken away from him. Son got taken away from him.
It's like he's literally got no one else. And it's like, I like as well because, not only because you find out that Theo's a good person, he becomes like a sort of father figure to like Key, like protecting her and that. And it's really nice.
I think Clive Owen, which we've both said, I think Clive Owen has become, well, his character in this has become sort of a template for, I'm going to use the term apocalypse dads. Like, you know, Last of Us and stuff like that. Although there is The Road as well.
Yeah,
which,
I thought that with The Last of Us. Like, yeah, that's very similar. Yeah, I mean, this is better.
Although actually, the more I think about it, it is closer than you think, because spoilers for Last of Us if you haven't seen that. But in this film, Key's pregnant and she's the last hope. Yeah, exactly. And Ellie is bitten.
She's immune.
Yeah, she's immune. So I suppose, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, they're quite similar actually. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Very good. The rest of the cast, though, some of like the smaller parts, Michael Caine, fucking great. Person I always love whenever he turns up in a film is Peter Mullen, who plays Sid.
Oh, yeah.
He's fucking great. I love the way he refers to himself in the third person.
Yeah, you can tell there's something a bit unhinged about him.
Yeah. And it's like, even though like eventually he does kind of turn into a dickhead, even he has a sympathetic reason if he was telling the truth. Because he says, like, I was with my mum and she's got cancer. Dying of cancer. Yeah. So he's got someone he wants to look for. And in a world like this, I mean, the guy probably takes any chance he can.
It's a well-realised motivation for the character to justify his actions, not to Theo, but to himself. So, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. The woman who plays Miriam as well.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's great. She's very sort of natural.
Yeah. I think because she offers the sort of motherly side in that sort of relationship with Theo and Key. There's that really beautiful scene where in that abandoned school, and she has that monologue being like a midwife.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
Like finding out there's no like babies being delivered for like next 7 months. It was so well performed.
Is that the way she says, like, or I might be misremembering, but she says something like, I miss the sound of children's playing.
Yeah.
It's like it is the one little thing. She's kind of skipping ahead, but whatever.
Go ahead.
It's the title at the end, Children of Men, and you hear the children playing. Yeah. And it's like it does make you think, like, I know it's because it's in the film. Yeah, it's like we haven't heard children at all, apart from the baby crying. And it's just like, it proper does, I don't know, it was just sort of a weird moment.
It sort of kicks in, like, a realisation.
Yeah, that there's no children. It's weird, man. It'd be
sad,
horrible fucking world to live in. Very good. Well, not very good at shit. But, I mean, and as well, I can never pronounce his name, but the guy who played Mordo in the Doctor Strange films, he's the one... He's like the second in command with Julian Moore. You know, he's driving the car. He's the one at the end with the gun.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor. I like him. And another guy who's just brilliant to hate is the guy with the dreadlocks.
Oh yeah,
Just a great character for hating. Because he's so cocky, and this can lead into sort of details about the film, because he comes across the whole film as being cocky and all that, and towards the end of the film, when Theo and the woman is with, he's got the chance to kill him straight up, but he has to be cocky and do a little dance and whatever, and then that gives the opportunity for the fighters to come in, and he doesn't get his chance. So if you wouldn't have been a cocky dickhead and you would have just killed them, you probably would have got away, but now you had to be cocky, didn't you?
It's nice as well. His ending is so well fitting when you go inside the building and being attacked by the tanks and that, and like he's just sort of out there in the open, the arrogance still maintained, and he just gets shot. It's like beautiful, man.
Yeah, he deserved it. Oh, and as well, another two things about sort of the cast. I love the moment as well where Clive Owen says to the dreadlocked guy, like, "Your breath stinks."
Jeez, your breath stinks.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
And like,
no, it doesn't.
I love the way his acting is so like, no, it didn't. No. It's so like his sort of front is completely broken then.
Trust
for
me.
that split second, fucking brilliant. And as well, when Miriam does get taken to like the detention center, you know, you're just like, oh
God.
no, not her.
I think that shot is another one of the best shots in the film, because again, it's a bit like that bit where you see the immigrants and the sort of progression of like where they'll end up. Because like Miriam, she gets kicked out of the bus. The bus starts moving, and the camera sort of reveals what will happen in terms of her fate. And like you see the people kneel down, and then you see the people taking their clothes off, and then the last shot you see the bodies piled up, and it's like, Jesus Christ! Like, you didn't have to say anything; it was enough with the imagery. Do you know what I mean? It was so well effective.
Yeah, as well. It's like there isn't like the camera sort of movements. It isn't like a big moment as well.
No,
if
it's
you know
just
what I mean.
sort of.
She's just taken.
It's just casual.
And then they put the bag on her.
Yeah,
That's the last we see
yeah.
of her. There's no sort of like big like musical sting or whatever. It's just, this is what's happened. I swear to God, this film, like, there's horror films, but there's stuff about this which is terrifying.
Trust me, man.
You know what I mean? Because as well, it's like, I know this is fiction, but it's just like there's images in this which we can see these days, if you know what I mean. And it's just like, God, all it takes, man, and that
Trust me.
that one crisis to really just mess us up. Anyway, that's a bit too heavy.
No, but the thing is though, it's like going back to you were saying about like when you watch it multiple times, you notice little stories happening. They've got their own thing going on. It's so rich. You know, there's obviously parallels when they get to the refugee camp, very reminiscent to the Jewish camps in World War II. Simply the way the people are simply treated there. Even for like, even not being able to respond to an order, immediately get shot. The bit where another great bit of detail I really like is when Theo walks in to find Key, and one of the guards takes his watch off.
Yeah,
it's like it's very reminiscent of that, like that history, like so well thought of.
Let's talk about some of the details then within this
Go
film.
ahead.
There's a moment where they get to the farm. And I'm just going to say Mordo because I don't know his name. Mordo says, like, that car needs to be jump-started.
Thomas, don't block the car and it needs to be jump-started.
And then that's the car they eventually steal, and that's why it's more effort to escape.
Definitely.
So there's that. And also, Key says something like, and you'd only know this if you'd seen the film before, because she says something to, it's just after she's given birth and she's with, like, this little family. And she's saying, like, about names for the baby. And she says something like, she jokes about, calling him a boy's name, but she's a girl.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the film, she calls the baby Dylan. So it's just like, fucking great. I need to stop swearing. But it's just like, it's great.
Mate, you can't help it. It's such a sick film, man.
We got to talk as well about the sort of, the ads and, you know, the sort of background stuff. Because one that I love is the sort of quietus or something.
Yeah.
The suicide pill. It's so strange, but it's so brilliant because it's so many layers within just this advert. Because this is a world which is sort of, well, a lot of heavy stuff, but this is a world which has sort of accepted euthanasia, and it's almost sort of promoting it. It's almost saying, exactly, you know, go on your terms or whatever it says. And it's just weird. It's just like,
again, it's like the way immigrants are treated. It's become another thing that's normalized. You know what I mean?
Normalized, yes.
Yeah. And like when it's like that bit when Theo wakes up in his apartment, and it's that advert as well, and it's like it's just normal things you see, you take for granted. It's mad. Yeah, that's crazy. That is.
It's almost like the government or whoever's in charge of this product, whatever. It's like they're saying, we know it's a mess.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to get better. If you want to top yourself, here's a way to do it.
Plus, we can make money out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see. That's a layer I hadn't thought of. Absolutely brilliant, man.
Yeah.
And the whole like
opportunity when chaos ensues.
Yeah.
You find ways.
I love this sort of infertility tests are a crime and stuff like that. And it's just brilliant. I mean, as well, when the evil virus was over here in 2020s, and we had like posters of stuff like that. I was like, God, are we actually living in this
Trust
film?
me, man. I love one of my favorite propaganda adverts. Is like, he's your doctor, he's your mate. You know, it's like that's fucking brilliant.
It's
as well.
like, and as well, there was an ad that was run by I don't know which government. I don't want to say one just in case I get it wrong. But it's just like, and it had like, if you see something, say something, which was very similar to that, like, you know, the eyes. I don't know if you remember that, because I got rid of it because it was just like, you're an idiot. But it's just like, it's just like, it's surprising when like you look at something, and like, I mean, when it came out, I mean, this year is 4 years away from now. But when this came out, it was like nearly 20 years to go. Well, it was 21 years in the future. It's just like,
it's terrifying.
It really is, man. It's just another detail as well, though. You know, before we get sidetracked with how depressing the world is, there's a weird thing with this film, the way people are dressed, because they're almost dressed like 60s style, like bowler hats.
Yeah, like the bankers.
Yeah. It's like, it adds this sort of like almost fantasy to it. And it's just like
you can see like
it's like out of time.
It's like weird subcultures, like Miriam's character with the dreadlocks, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I think that's a good detail in terms of like popular culture.
Yeah. Like, it makes me think: has like fashion
regressed,
like gone round again, and now people by 2027 in this world are wearing more sort of 60s style clothes. Or is it the fact that like it's cheaper to buy old clothes now? If you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So it's accessible. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like everything.
It's just been thought out of so well.
And it's like everything you can even look at as being like you could look at the people in bowler hats and be like, oh, that's just a cool little creative idea. Or you could say maybe it's because there's no money, and it's cheaper to get clothes which are old and battered up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
amazing film.
It really is. It's like you could just be here all day just picking like the different ads and just trying to make sense of them and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And the little, you know, when he goes to his cousin and his cousin's son is playing a game. Yeah. And he's eating like pills as well. It's like, what's that? You know, where's that come from? Is that something that everyone does, or is that just for the rich?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've heard the book is a lot more different. Like, I don't know what sort of creative liberties Alfonso took, but like it's a lot different in terms of the way certain characters meet and the way the film's represented. So yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see what the book is like compared to the film.
Yeah, I do want to read the book.
Yeah, eventually.
Just to see. Sometimes an adaptation can be better when it's not. It doesn't follow the exact.
I've heard
script.
This film is the exception. It's like the best
Is
in
it?
terms of like the version. Yeah. Another great long shot that lasts for a good 8 minutes. Starts off with the archway and Theo Key, and I think her name is Marika.
Something like that.
Yeah. With like a freedom fighter, and the way they sort of traverse, and you see a group of people praising Allah and walking by, and then suddenly you see like absolute pandemonium with the fishes coming in, and then the army coming behind, and it's just like, oh my god. I mean, that scene where they're about to be taken, they're about to be shot individually, and it's like you mentioned the whole the one with the dreadlocks, like that whole sequence, and the fact that they managed to carry on into the building as well. Holy shit, man!
Yeah, as well, it's like they're in the middle of this big battle, but they're the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
With the baby and all that, it's like they don't realize it's like one stray bullet could end everything.
Trust me,
It's brilliant, man. I really love it. If there's one thing I will say, but this is not just about this film, it's about every film that does this. I really get annoyed when something splashes on a camera in a film.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. And the reason why I don't like it is because when you watch a film, we're not watching cameras recording something, are we? I mean, we are, but we're watching a film. Whereas if something splashes on a camera, there's a surface there, which is causing that thing to, be splashed on the camera.
Yeah.
But what surface is it then? If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I never like. But I do like the way in this, they get around a cheeky edit because blood does spray on the camera. I wonder if that was an accident, by the way. But it's just like, the way they get around it is that they sort of, I think they do like a zoom thing or a focus thing where the blood slowly goes out of focus. And then there is I know exactly where the cut is. It's where they go into the building, the camera looks up, and then it comes back down. That's where the cut is. Because the blood is there for 1 second and then it's completely gone.
Yeah.
And it's like they might have done like a focus thing to get it out, but then it would have fucked everything else up.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I do think like it's definitely edited together.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
one
yeah.
long shot, but yeah, like that's one thing that annoys me in films is when stuff hit on the camera.
Yeah, I get that. Just after that long shot sequence, the bit where you hear the baby crying, and then Thea walks off with Key. I mean, at this point, we don't know he's been shot already, and like when they both start walking off, like people, the immigrants all line up together, and it's a very sort of religious, sort of holy moment, like a state of serenity. Because even like the soldiers like cease firing, and like they all just stop to look at the baby, and for a moment, like it's really peaceful and so profound in that film. It's fucking beautiful, man. Yeah.
And then it's just interrupted by
yeah,
bazooka.
and they just carry on as if
Yeah. It's like this might be a bit like simple, whatever, but it's like humans we can't help fighting, can we?
No,
we just can't help it.
It's...
And as well, I love that bit when she first starts to like walk down the hallway, and like there's people all like doing sort of religious sort of stuff, but there's like people in the backgrounds getting shot and killed. Did you notice that? Like one guy just like gets shot and he falls to the ground, and it's like, oof.
It's proper, like it's the second coming. I get that sort of vibe about it. Yeah, I think. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to the ending?
Not really. If there's one thing,
Go on.
one negative, because I don't want to end the review on a negative. If there's one thing, and the first time I watched it, I really felt it, but the other times I really didn't. I feel like the film sometimes has a weird pace to it. It's like it doesn't feel to me. And I think this is like an intentional thing, but it doesn't feel like it really has a defined Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. It's just like... they are there. The acts are there. I'd say probably Act 1 is all the way to the farm. Act 2 is when they get to Bexhill, and Act 3 is Bexhill. And it's just like... So it is there, but there's just something weird about the pacing with this film, I feel like, when you first watch it. It feels like it just drops you in it. And there you go.
Interesting.
And it's just like not that can be a bad thing, but I just felt like with this film, it does sort of. There's just a weird pace to it at times. But that's just my little negative. But
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, carry on with the sort of ending
So
of the film, though.
the ending of the film, Theo's been shot, but they've made it onto the boat. But it hasn't been for nothing. And like, it's a good moment for Theo because he's learned to have hope again, and there's a really nice bit where like he becomes a dad again because he sort of gives advice to Key, like, you know, because the baby's passing wind, you got to put it on your shoulder, tap it gent, and it's like his role is now complete, and like I love the bit where you mentioned earlier about, you know, Key naming her daughter Dylan, and it's like that's Theo's reward. And like I love his the shot on his face, like just before he's about to die, and it's like you can tell he's at peace. You know what I mean? That is such a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I love that. It's like I love his when he is acting, like acting how to win the baby, and it's like there's just something I love about that acting, and as well. I mean, if you want to, you know, look into it even more, it's like, you know, the parent and the child, and now the child has become the parent, and all that stuff. And I do feel like, you know, this film could have been so bleak if you would have ended it like 2 minutes earlier.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? If we didn't see that boat at the end, you know, it would have been like...
they drop all the bombs.
Oh, yeah.
On the refugee camp.
Yeah. But imagine if it would have ended with her just there, just on the boat. Would have been terrible. But see, there's the thing, though. We don't know if things are going to get better. I mean, she's met this human project, but, you know, will they be as good as what they say they are? You know, will it be good, or will it just...
But a part of it kind of doesn't matter because it's been about Theo's journey, and I feel like it's been like a redemption arc in a sense of him being a good person. Because but I get what you mean, definitely. But I don't know. I can't really see any fault in it, to be honest. Like, maybe if I watched it again, maybe I'll be like, okay. But that pacing thing you mentioned is quite interesting. I'll have to watch it again at some point. But what can I say? It's an absolute masterpiece.
It really is, man.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. It's just brilliant, man.
Yeah.
From the same man who directed Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban as well.
Really?
Yeah, man.
How do I... well, it's been a while.
Harry Potter 3 is probably the most weird one out of all of them. Have you seen Harry Potter 3?
I've seen.
Yeah. Just a moody, depressing film, that is.
I like it.
Bit like this. Yeah. Is that everything for children,
that's
men?
Everything.
Absolutely brilliant. Have I got anything else to say? Don't think so. Practically covered everything. I think we've been going for about an hour. Yeah. Overall, brilliant film. Can't wait for children of adults in next year when the sequel's announced. What would you do with a sequel to this?
Oh, nah. It's just like, you can't, nah. I don't know how you could pull it off.
The Children of Man cinematic universe.
Yeah.
I wonder if they will make a sequel. I mean, weirder things have happened. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with another video at some point. And, yeah. Hope you're well. Hope everything's alright. And if it's not alright, hopefully it gets better for you. Thank you, and we'll see you later.